Yeah, hello guys, Cloudie here, checking in after a slightly longer break, and we are continuing our guide series. This time we're gonna be talking about skills, which are, well, the heart and soul of our characters in Lost Ark, really. I do think they are fairly straightforward, and of course this means that this video is still mainly aimed at newer players, but hopefully I can provide some meaningful insights to more accomplished players as well. So without further ado, let's actually get to it. Let's get photobombed here first. Let's unlock this skill UI and let's see where we can see that. So if you go to your character screen, you can click combat skills, and this will show you your skill menu. You can also reach this by pressing K. Now on the left side you can see all the skills that your character has learned so far. You should be getting them around level 50 or so. That's when you unlock all of them, and you will also see your awakening skills, which are assigned to the V key by default, I believe. The other keys or other skills you can just drag and drop to your preferred keys. Most characters or classes will have 8 of them, but there are some classes, mainly those that like switch forms, that can have more than 8 at a time, and as said, these will be unlocked as you level up all the way to level 50. Now one pro tip here is that on the top of the screen on the left side there is this checkbox which sorts the skills by the ones that you have equipped. So this makes the ones that you already own or use actually to be more easily manageable. So that's kind of useful to have. This lets you see all the skills that you have here. Now as you level up, you will also earn skill points, which will allow you to rank up your skills. Now most of these skill points will be coming from leveling up, but if we go to the guide and codex and put in skill potion, which I've already done, then you will get a list of skill potions that you can obtain in the game, or skill point potions, sorry, and these can be obtained from various places. You can see here where they are coming from, and these will give you extra skill points. As you can see, I'm still missing 2 greater potions, which are 6 points each, but on top of that, I think I need 1 more here. So I still need, I could get a few more points, but not too much. So I think I'm quite well here. And you can use these points to improve your skills. Now, if you check, for instance, the damage of this one, it's 92k. And I start adding points, and it keeps going up a little bit. It's not by too much, but it does add up, so that kind of helps. Now, as you could see, when I was adding points, this part here started glowing, and these are your so-called tripods, which you can think of as like talent perks for a given skill. These unlock in 3 different levels. There is the first tier, which for which you need 4 points, you can see, or 4 levels. You can see that I reached level 4 here, then this unlocked, and you can see if I keep going, then the second one unlocks at 7, and then the third tier is at level 10. You can also see that the required points for each upgrade keep going up as I go higher and higher, so that's good to know. You can go all the way to level 10 with this skill, and then at level 55 you get an extra level, skill level 11, and then at level 60 there is 1 more level. Now what you need to know about the tripods or perks is that you can select 1 from each tier. So if I put some more points back here, you can see that maybe I can click this one and I can click this one, and then I just click save and it's done. If I don't like this, then I can change this one, but even though I have 2 unlocked, I can't select 2 here, so you can only have 1 per tier here. Also important to know that you can pretty much change all your skill, your entire layout for free, pretty much anywhere where you are, with the restriction being that you cannot have any skill on cooldown at the time. And in dungeons there are usually special locations that allow you to change your skill set, otherwise you cannot do that. But that's pretty much the only restriction on them. There is no cost allocated, which is pretty nice, because in free-to-play games they often charge us for just changing our loadout. Here you can just do it for free, so that's pretty nice. One more thing about tripods and skills in general is that if you look here, there is something that says level 1. Also, this one has current level 1 max, so we can't upgrade this any further. But let's just say this one, you can see that there is a level 2, and This is very late game. This stuff unlocks in Punica when you reach tier 3 stuff, where gear will increase your tripod. So not really want to get into that because I said this is aimed at more newer players. I just wanted to point it out that if you are wondering how you get extra points in here, that will be coming from late game gear. Do not worry, you didn't need to like click more on this sort of stuff. When I was leveling up, I was like, how do I even get this stuff? So yeah, that's how you get gear at tier 3. So I think that's good to know. And one more thing is that on the right side you can see runes. These are also gonna be stuff that you get later on in the game. Equipping them is pretty simple. You select the skill that you want, you select the rune that you want, and you click equip. One restriction here is that you can only have 8 skills with runes at a time. Which runes you equip to which skill, well, that kind of depends on your character, your class, your playstyle. You can check character build guides to figure out which ones you want to use. Now, one more thing to know about skills is that you can have preset from these. There are 2 available for free. This one, mine is empty actually, but I'm thinking I should actually get this. And you could buy a third one for crystals, but I'm not gonna do that right now. So you can also switch between them quite easily. Again, don't be in battle, don't be on cooldown. And the good thing is that you can assign these to your character integrated presets, which lets you save these sets together, and you can assign these integrated presets to content. For instance, if you are doing chaos dungeons later on and you want a more AoE heavy build, then you can do that just by assigning that to the content, and it will automatically switch to that set when you enter. So that's pretty good because some characters want to have more AoE and then more boss damage, or if you are a support, you want your support build, but then sometimes you have to solo. So that's yeah, that can be kind of useful. All right, so let's see what else there is to know about skills. One thing here, if you were looking, that there are 2 things when shown here, or many things that are shown here, but let's start with the top part. It has 2 things here, normal and flurry skill. Now, flurry skill and focus skill are the 2 forms of the glaivier class. This is usually written there, like paladins have like judgment and holy skills, whatever, so it doesn't really matter. This is just to give you some guidance on where this will be used. So if I switch to the red form, then I can use the focus skills. If I use the blue form, then I can use the flurry skills. But at the top it says normal, so this is the basic skill type, which basically what it does is that if you press a button, then something happens. I know that sounds pretty vague, but basically that's what it does. You see, I press a button, my character does something immediately. Now the next skill type that we should look at, this one is also normal skill, but I have a tripod there that says changes to holding mode. So instead of just pressing the skill, if I hold down the button, you can see this bar there, which during which I'm holding the skill, and it's constantly doing something. So instead of an instant cast, it's something that constantly does something while I'm holding the button. Now if we switch to the red form, there is another holding skill, because sometimes holding skills come with a so-called perfect zone, and this is what we're gonna look at right now. If I hold, you can see that bar there in the middle, that small portion, that is what that usually means that if you release the skill at that point, you release the button, then you get more damage. So if I do this wrong, I release it, then you can see fail, and this would have done less damage. Now a different type of skill is charging skills. Charging skills can usually be released at any time, but will usually do more damage if you release them at the end. So if you charge all the way, so you can see again, this would be a normal skill, but because I have the air ripping thrust tripod, it changes to charge mode, and it does more damage when fully charged. So I can just do all the way to the bar and then release it to do more damage. So that's the main difference. Now let's see what other type of skills we have. We can see that there is a lot of normal skills. Here there is a point skill here, we're gonna get to that in a moment. There is holding skills, and let's see we can have, now normally I use it like this, but there is an option which changes this to combo mode. So normally one button press is one skill, but there are combo skills where you can do repeated button presses. So let's just say I press this once, and then you can see that my character hits once. So the combo mode will be that I can keep pressing the button depending on the skill to activate it more times. So that can be useful with certain skills. Let's see, this one I can tap twice, so I can press the skill, and then you hit more than once. Basically, that's the idea here. So that's one skill type, and then we have the pointing skills. Pointing skills mean that you point somewhere with your mouse cursor, and then you press the button, and then your character is gonna do the skill at that location. So these can be like range skills, or in this case, this is a jumping skill. And the final thing that we need to talk about is casting skills, which are, with this the character doesn't have one. I will switch to my paladin in a moment, but I can tell you that it's almost the same as charging skills, because the skill will activate when you finish the charge, except you only need to press the button once. And the big difference is that if you start casting a holding or charging skill and you get interrupted for any reason, then your skill goes on cooldown, while with casting skills you only go on cooldown if you actually finish your cast. So this is the main difference. But let's actually switch over to the paladin, and then I can show you the next. So we are back now on the paladin, and as promised we are gonna get a real quick look at the casting skills. So we're gonna use Holy Explosion. As you can see, this says casting. I click it and I can target it somewhere, and you can see I have a targeting bar, and if I interrupt the cast, then this doesn't go on cooldown. So this can be useful for certain situations. You can just interrupt your cast and move on, or you can finish it if that's your goal. Unlike charge and holding skills, which go on cooldown even if you interrupt the cast. So that's the main difference there. On top of that, I only know of one type of skill, which is the toggle skills. From all my characters, only like the sorceress has one, as far as I recall. So those are pretty uncommon, and well, as the name suggests, it's a skill that, or an effect that you can turn on and off. So that's really it. Now let's go back to the skills page, and let's see, there are all these fancy words on top of the skill description there. So let's see what all of these are. Now let's start with attack type, which says here back attack. Now not all skills have an attack type, like for instance this one, it doesn't. Back attack, as the name suggests, means that it does more damage when you hit the target from behind. So usually you are camping behind bosses if you have skills like this. It also synergizes with the ambush master engraving. There is also a front attack skill type, but that's very rare. I only have like one on my Sork, I think, and I don't recall any others on all my characters. Paladins used to have some, but they got changed to back attack. So these are pretty rare. In other cases, if there is no direction mentioned in the description, that means that the skill does the same damage from all directions, and that they synergize with Hitmaster. So that's some engraving that you can use. Now, if we go back here, then there is, let's go with a counter, because that's also a very important one. This is something that you can, a counter is something that you can perform. Usually it's Guardian raids, Abyss raids, Legion raids that have counter mechanics. Basically the boss will start glowing blue, and then you have a very short window. Basically you have to cast it within a second, really, where you can cast a counter skill if you are in front of the boss. This is also interesting because it's not really mentioned here, but you can only counter from the front. And if you cast your counter skill and it hits before the timer expires, the counter window expires, then you will interrupt whatever the boss is doing there. This can be like a charge attack or a big damage attack or whatever, but that's what's gonna happen. You can interrupt it, and then maybe the boss will not run away from you or not do something nasty. Early on, this is not really important to do, but later on, especially in Legion raids or the higher end um, Guardian raids, it can be pretty useful to do. Let's just say it that way. So it's something that you kind of want to practice. Okay, the other important part here, on which we can see on this skill, is stagger. Now, stagger, if mentioned, can be low, mid-high, or high. And this is basically the CC that you can inflict upon bosses, which is, or mainly for bosses here. The bosses that can be CC'd will usually have this stagger bar under their health bar, and thus you hit them with these stagger skills that will get reduced. Also, sometimes raids or boss fights will have this stagger check mechanics. Usually you will see a yellow bar on top of the boss or around the boss somewhere, and you need to deplete that by using stagger skills to interrupt whatever they're doing. This is usually a wipe skill, so you kind of want to interrupt them. There are also bombs, like the whirlwind bombs, that have high stagger, so you can throw them at the boss when that is up. So that's the main indicator on the skill, whether it does stagger or not. For instance, this does mid stagger, this does mid high, this doesn't have any at all. So that's also important to know. It's important to know which of your skills will deal stagger for those checks. Moving on, we also have weak point. Now, weak point is what we also often refer to as destruction. Sometimes bosses will have armor on them, like the 3 boss that was in tier 2, I believe. And to deal more damage to the boss, you need to break the armor on the boss, and for that you need to use these weak point skills or destruction skills. Now, some bosses have higher level armor, and you can see weak point level 1 is applied here, but if you, for instance, take this perk, then you get an extra level on weak point, and then you deal more damage to armor, and you are more likely to break the armor of the boss. So this is also important to know in the later parts of the game, to know which skills to use if there is an armor breaking check in that particular fight. And then finally we do have the super armor line. This is mostly PvP, but some PvE fights you can utilize this if you know which skills you need to use. Super armor can be usually either paralysis immunity, and this is what you have most on most of the skills. So that means that while you are using that skill, you are protected against hard CC. That can be like stuns, for instance. But there is another type of CC, which is, for instance, pushbacks. And those skills will have a different type of description. From the top of my head, I think this one has, for instance, a push immunity perk. So Wrath of God could be perk to be immune to push skills when you are using it. That can also be kind of useful in certain situations. Not always, but sometimes it's good to have. So this is also something you can keep in mind, mostly for PvP asset, because you will need to know when you can go immune to the CC effects of the other people. But there are also effects in PvE that you can ignore using these immunities on your skills, but that's like super pro level, really. It's just good to know that these exist. So I think we have covered everything. Something I forgot to mention regarding awakening skills, so the ones that you have at the bottom, that the first one you should learn around level 50, and then later on you get a quest to do the second one. These you can put here on your V bar or V button, and they have a long cooldown, but usually come with some pretty cool effects. But to actually use them, you need to have an item, which I am super blind now, I can't see it even in my inventory. Maybe I put it somewhere else. Yeah, I have it here. So I have only 2 of these now, which means that I can cast my skill only twice. And You can buy these at general merchants. You can have like more than 100 on you, so it's easy to carry them around. They do not cost too much, so don't worry about needing to buy them or needing to see if you're skilled because of that, unless you are super broke like some of my friends. But yeah, that's just something good to know. So guys, I think that's it all about skills. I think I've covered pretty much everything. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. And this has been Cloudie for now. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.